evening, friends. Welcome, Dr. Neeraj, and thank you very much for accepting our request and invitation to just speak on this issue of forward futures market, to just expose us on different aspects of a particular topic. Like in this session, we are going to discuss about forward futures market, how these kind of things are emerging, how these kind of things are important when you speak about price discovery, and how it can be used as one of the tool uh, to market the produce effectively, and also what kind of role warehouses are going to play when you are speaking about uh, forward future market. And dear friends, before I request Dr. Neeraj to take over, just a brief introduction about him. He is a person of agriculture economics. He did his master's in agriculture economics from G.B. Pant University of Agriculture and Technology, Pantnagar. And after that, he did his PhD in agriculture economics from Karnal and DRI. And after that, I think for more than 16 years, he is in this field only, agri-commodities. And he is having complete understanding of this sector in terms of its operations, policies related to it, and how we actually can avail benefit out of this concept. So, Dr. Neeraj, over to you.
Thank you so much, sir. So first of all, I would like to compare this derivative market and physical market. So what do we see in a physical market? We all are aware of. Let's suppose I want to buy any commodity or anything or from our nearby grocery shop. So what do? We just visit that grocery shop and tell that person that just give me 1 kg sugar or whatsoever. So we tell them, we personally visiting over there, we are just telling him or her that please give me this much this commodity, this quantity, and in turn we are also telling him that I need this open sugar or branded sugar or packed sugar, so the quality. So each and everything that is being asked by the buyer. So if that seller is having that particular quality and quantity, then he'll provide me. And if I want to take the commodity with me from the shop, or if that shop is sometimes it is e-commerce shop and all those, so we can order online also, so that it's getting delivered at my home. So what we are observing over here, so it happens that the buyer and seller are negotiating between each other among them, and the demand is arising out of buyer and not only the demand means in terms of quality, quantity, and all those things. So everything is being stated by the buyer that I need this much quantity, this much quality at this location, all those things. So what you are understanding from this, that everything is somewhat negotiable in between buyers and sellers. Similarly, if we go to mandi, physical mandi, when where our auction takes place, farmers bring their produce in the mandi, and over there are a number of buyers who participate in that auction and buy the commodity from farmers through agents, commission agents. So again over there, whatever the quality it is there, farmers bringing, it is being sold as per their merit. So some farmer is having better quality, the quality of that produce will fetch better price. If someone is offering lower quality, that will fetch lower price, and so on. Similarly, that farmer can bring 1 quintal, 10 quintal, 1 ton, 10 ton, 100 ton, whatsoever. So whatsoever quantity that farmer is offering or seller is offering, it is being sold over there. So what you are seeing over here in this kind of market, so there is a lot of flexibility in terms of transaction, in terms of trade between buyers and sellers. So what happens if we compare this with another kind of new market? So what is this new market? So in 2003, the government allowed another kind of market that is totally online instead of physical that we are discussing right now, where buyers and sellers are meeting physically, they are negotiating with each other, and then negotiating on quality, quantity, all those parameters. So in this online market, what happens? So there is no negotiation between buyers and sellers on many of the fronts, many of the parameters like quality, quantity, and all those things are not negotiated. So how does the trade happens? So what happens? There is online market, just like a physical market. Over here, it is an online kind of market where there is no need of buyer and seller to be physically present in front of each other. Whereas in the physical market, we are required to be present over there just to interact with the in between buyers and seller. So over here, we are trading on a platform that is being provided by an entity that is called exchange. So exchange, like there are currently 5 exchanges. We'll discuss it later on. So they are providing a kind of market, but that market is not in a physical location, on any physical location. So APMC by definition is defined as any physical premises. But over here, it is not any physical premises. It is just an online platform where buyers and sellers can be sitting or standing anywhere in the country can participate. So in physical market, suppose it is Delhi Mandi or Hyderabad Mandi or anywhere, so buyers and sellers of nearby location are participating. But in online kind of market, so any person from anywhere in the country can participate. So there is no restriction of that reaching out to that physical premise. First thing. Secondly, if I am not aware that I am not in physical market, what happens? If buyer and sellers are approaching every time in that particular mandi to buy and sell year on year, I was saying that buyer and seller most of the time they visit same mandi, same premise year on year. So there is amount of some trust built in between those buyers and sellers. So they do know each other. Now in this online kind of market, when buyers and sellers are not meeting out physically, then how the trust can be built in? How the buyer can know that what kind of quality I would be able to get for which I am paying this much price. Similarly, how can a seller would be confident that whatever quantity and quality I am offering, whether I would be able to receive proper price and timely price or not. So all those things are there. These are the question marks among the minds of buyers and sellers. But just to explain that thing to you, so all those things are taken care of by the entity that we are just discussing, that is the exchange. Now exchange, how does any exchange takes care of all those things? A buyer is sitting somewhere else, a seller is sitting somewhere else, the commodity is lying with the seller. So how any of the exchange, there are different exchanges, so any of the exchange guarantees that thing. So there are set processes, set rules and regulations that are applicable to these kind of trade and transactions. So in brief, we are going to discuss the implication of those things and how this kind of trade happens and what kind of benefit are there for different type of participants. So to start with, this is the price chart of soybean. I have taken soybean because soybean is a very prominent commodity in oil seed. So this is last 10 years price chart of soybean. So what do we understand from this chart? So just to tell you that there is 2 color shaded area in this chart you can find. So one is light blue color and one is light green color. So light blue color is the sowing phase and light green color is the harvesting phase. Now what do we find? Is there any kind of pattern we are identifying this kind of market or this kind of price chart? So if we see clearly, if we see properly, so we will find that while in the sowing phase or during those 2-3 months of sowing and growth phase, most of the time prices go up, whereas in the harvesting phase, during the 2-3 months of harvesting, prices go down. And this holds true for around 70% of the time, 65 to 75% of the time this holds true. 20, 25, 30% of time the opposite happens, and that too just because sometimes there could be weather constant, there could be some international factors and all those. Otherwise, around 65 to 75% of the times, most the prices come down during the harvesting. So what does this mean for a processor? What does this mean for a farmer? So a processor always wait for this harvesting season because most of the time prices do come down, and then in that time he can buy or procure the commodity at lower price to process it further, to store it in their warehouse and process it further in later stage, later months. However, if we see from the buyer's end, seller's end, the farmer's end, so what happens over there? Because farmer would be able to know the prices only when he is bringing the produce to the mandi. He has grown the commodity, he has sown the commodity 3-4 months back, but he has to wait till the commodity, the crop gets harvested and being transported to the mandi to know the what price he is going to fetch. And as we are seeing that around 70% of the time, that means for 7 years out of 10 years, if he is bringing the commodity in those months, so he would be able to receive almost lowest price of whole year, whole season. Again, suppose there is a processor who requires a commodity for his processing, and if that 25-30% of the time, if the commodity prices go up, so instead of during harvesting period, if prices go up, then he or she needs to buy or procure the commodity at a higher price. So their business profitability also remains at a stake. So because commodity prices are always volatile, no one knows for sure that which way the prices would go. So this is called price risk. So price risk, all kind of market participant, whether they are producer, whether they are consumer, whether they are processor, whether they are importer or exporter, they do always face this kind of price risk. So there are different type of price risk mitigation measures like contract farming and all those things are there. But this derivative market also offers one kind of instrument that can be used to mitigate certain up to certain extent these kind of price risks. So how this can be used and how the price risk is being mitigated, we'll discuss later on. So I was telling that there are different type of exchanges who are offering these kind of derivatives. So earlier, 3-4 years ago, there were around 20, more than 20 regional exchanges and 3 national exchanges, 3-4 national exchanges. So later on, in 2015, SEBI came into picture. Say earlier the market regulator was FMC, that is Forward Market Commission, that was regulating the commodity market. So in 2015 September, the FMC got merged with SEBI. SEBI was the regulator of equity market. FMC got merged with SEBI, and then SEBI became the regulator of commodity markets also. So since September 2015, SEBI started regulating commodity markets, and then it put lot of efforts to make the commodity market robust and bring it at par of equity or security markets. So it took several steps, several initiatives. So in those initiatives, there was some kind of requirements to be fulfilled by various exchanges, like net worth requirement, like turnover requirement of the total commodity, how much commodity is being traded. So all those requirements, SEBI incorporated. So all those regional exchanges, they were trading, they were having only 1 or 2 commodity on their exchanges. So all those exchanges were not able to fulfill the criteria that laid down by the SEBI. So they surrendered their memberships. So later on, SEBI allowed all the exchanges, other exchanges like NSE and BSE or the security exchanges. So SEBI brought all the exchanges at par. So what happened then? So then all the exchanges now can offer either equity, all the exchanges can offer commodity, all the exchanges can offer currency. So now each and every exchange, whosoever are there right now, they are able to offer, they can offer each and every kind of scripts. Currently, what is happening? Mostly NSE and BSE, they are also having the commodity portray, but their presence is still very limited. However, the MCX and NCDEX are major prominent players. So MCX comes for non-agri commodities. Non-agri means energy like crude oil, natural gas, metals like zinc, like lead, nickel, aluminum, and all those things, and precious metals like gold, silver. So all those commodities are mainly traded in MCX. MCX is also having agri commodities also, but their share is limited. So MCX is mainly catering the non-agri commodity. Again, the second most important player is NCDEX, that is mainly known for the agriculture derivatives. So NCDEX is also offering non-agri commodities, but the trading is very limited. So in case of agri commodities, the NCDEX caters for around 85 to 90% share among all these exchanges. So remaining ICX, BSE and NSEs, they hold very limited presence in agri segment. I told that this is being regulated by the SEBI, and overall it comes under Ministry of Finance. So coming to the NCDEX, so NCDEX is the exchange that offers this market, the platform, and among that there are various functions and various entities that are offering various kind of functions. So there is one entity that's called National Clearing Corporation Limited. So it is responsible for clearing and settlement of the trade. So what is clearing and what is settlement, we will discuss in one of the slides later on. But for the time being, we can see that NCCL is responsible for clearing and settlement. Then there comes NICR. So NICR is NCDEX, Institute of Commodity Markets and Research. It is involved in creating and creating awareness among market participants and also providing research and consultancy to the ecosystem. Then there is NEML, National E-Market Limited. So it is involved in the spot market. So it is a kind of online spot market. Just like in APMC Mandi, the trading happens in physical market. So you might have heard ENAM. So this is NEML is same. It is the entity that is responsible for or the, we can say, the success of the steps or initiative taken by NEML and Karnataka government, the REMS, that is Rashtriya Market Services Limited. The success story of that gave rise to the birth of ENAM. Then there comes PXIL, the Power Exchange India Limited, small share in PXIL. Then there is NERL, National E-Repository Limited. This is responsible for the whatever the commodity is being stored in warehouses. So maintaining the record of all those commodities in and out, maintaining all those things are being, and the repository is being maintained by the NERL. So now coming to the product side, means what kind of things are there, what kind of commodities are there on these exchanges, what kind of commodities are being traded. So there are around 91 commodities that can be offered by these exchanges. So in physical market, any of the commodity can be traded, but in derivative market, each and everything, rules and regulations, what thing can be traded, what thing cannot be traded, how it can be traded, everything is defined properly and guided by the regulator SEBI, and in turn guided by the government. So government has given mandate that around only 91 commodities can be offered in derivative segment. So out of those 91 commodities, various exchanges have offered over the years, over the last 17 years, they have offered around 50 commodities also. So they have tried around 50 commodities. And out of those 50 commodities, so right now if we are talking about NCDEX, so NCDEX currently offers 21 commodities. So 21 commodities are there that are being offered by NCDEX in different type of segments. So segments means there are futures and option and indices. So we'll discuss all these segments later on. These are called derivatives. So what do we mean by futures? So again comparing with the same physical market, in physical market what happens? Right now today I am going to I am seller, I am taking my commodity in the mandi. There are buyers who are quoting their price and buying the commodity from me. So on the same day, buying selling is happening. The commodity is getting transferred to the buyer from sellers. So each and everything is happening on the same day. And most of the time, payment is also happening on the same day or next day or next to next day. So what we are observing, by the transaction and delivery is happening and the settlement is happening on the same day. So this is spot market. But in futures market, this is not the same case. So futures market means, as the name suggests, futures. Futures is referring to some time in future. So what happens if I am a buyer and seller, or I am a seller? So if I want to buy or sell today, if I am a seller, I want to sell today, then I can sell. I can get a quote of selling. I can lock in my price, but I would not be able to deliver my commodity right now, today. For that, I need to wait for some time. What time? That is being that has been already been explained by the exchange in terms of some parameter, some contract specifications. Similarly, if I want to buy, so I can buy, I can put my quote in this kind of online market. So I would be able to buy. I will get right to buy, but the commodity would not be given to me today. Again, if I want to take the delivery of that commodity, then I will need to wait for that particular time date that is been already given by the exchange. So that date and all those things are written in terms of a contract. So that buyer and seller both, they need to adhere with that contract. And not only the date, other things like quality of those commodity, like quality in terms of moisture percentage. If it is oil seed commodity, then oil percentage, and then the foreign matter or any type of adulteration, all those things in that is allowed in this commodity, like foreign metal, wrinkled grains, wilt grains. So all those things, the upper limit is fixed for each and everything. The deviation is fixed. So why it is being fixed? One can say that if everything is being fixed, it is not, there is no flexibility, then it is difficult to trade. Definitely some, if again, the counter question for that is that if I am not fixing, the exchange is not fixing all those things, then how the buyer would be knowing that what type of quality he is going to get and what price he would offer. He is not knowing the quality of that produce that is being offered to him. So for that, and again, seller can bring any quality, any type of quality as per his will or wish. So to give comfort, to make it make the transaction smooth and uniform, each and everything, every parameter has been fixed. It is written in terms of his contract, and that contract is to be adhered by both the buyers and sellers. If I am buying that particular quantity, that I am buying that particular quality of the commodity. If I need to take delivery, I need to take delivery for that commodity from the specified locations, specified warehouses that is already fixed in the contract specifications. So each and everything over here, it is fixed, just to provide comfort, make the transaction and everything uniform. There is a different type of products. One is futures, one is options. In futures, we'll discuss what happens futures and options in one of our hedging slide. So first we will be explaining this futures market. So over here again, I have taken the example of soybean. This is yesterday's price movement. So what we are seeing over here, in the first column, we can see the name of the commodity, that is soybean. In second column, we can see the expiry date. So it is 20th December, 20th of January, 18th of February, 17th of March, 20th of April, and so on. So what happens? Each and every, almost every contract, or every commodity contract on NCDEX gets expired on 20th of that particular month. So if it is December contract, then that gets expired on 20th of December. If it is January contract, that gets expired on 20th of January. If it is February contract, then expired on 20th of February, and so on. But if it is a holiday, 20th is holiday, then it is preponed by 1 day to 19th. Again, if it is a holiday, 19th is again a holiday, then it is preponed to 18th, and so on. That's why we can see that in the month of February, it is 18th February. In the month of March, it is 17th March, and so on. And if it is not holiday, then the contract would expire on 20th. So what does that mean? Suppose today I want to buy for the month of March. So today I can buy 17th March contract. Today means if had it been the regular day, so it is yesterday's price. So if I am taking yesterday's price, so LTP we can see in the first, second, third, fourth, fifth column. In fifth column, LTP is last traded price. So the price we can see that 6219. So if I want to buy any commodity for the March month, so we can buy at 6219. The price is 6219 rupees per quintal, 6,219 rupees per quintal. So soybean I can buy in the 17th March contract. So what would happen? So till 17th of March, I am free. So I don't need to take delivery because I would not be able to get delivery. I would be able to get delivery only in the month of March towards the expiry. Before that, what I can do or what I have to do, I just need to pay some amount. That amount is called margin for this total quantity. I don't need to pay full amount today. I just need to pay a small amount. A small amount means it is a fraction of around 10, 12, 15% of total value of the commodity. That is called margin. So by paying that margin, I can buy if I am a buyer, or I can sell if I am a seller. So if I am a seller, so I am having time till 17th of March. So on 17th of March or before that, there is a concept of a staggered delivery. But for the simplicity, we are taking the 17th of March. So on 17th of March, I need to deliver the commodity till 17th of March. I don't need to bring my commodity over there or anywhere. Now, everyday prices do change. Prices keep on changing, plus minus happening, keep on happening. And there is a concept of that is called open interest. So open interest is the number of contracts held or bought or sold by all the market participants collectively. That is open. There are 1,000 buyers, and everyone has bought one lot, one contract. There would be 1,000 buyers. So again, against that, there would be 1,000 sellers. So 1,000 lot of 1,000 contracts of sellers. So the open interest would be cumulative position of either on the buyer side or on the seller side. So 1,000 lots are on the buyer side. So open interest would be 1,000. It would not be the club or combination of addition of 1,000 plus 1,000. So open interest would be the either from the buyer side or from the seller side, because both are equal. Both would have to be equal. So open interest would be 1,000 lots of contracts. So this is the contract specifications. As I was discussing that each and everything is fixed by the exchange in terms of contract parameters, contract specification. So in case of soybean, we can see that trading unit is 5 metric ton. 5 metric ton means it is the minimum trading unit. If I need to buy, I would be able to buy minimum quantity of 5 metric ton. If I want to buy more than that, then it would be in multiple of 5 metric ton. So 5, 10, 15, 20, and so on. The price would be depicted in terms of rupees per quintal, and the tick size is rupees 1. So what is tick size? Tick size is minimum price movement either on the upside and downside. Suppose right now the price is 6,000 rupees. So if I want to increase my quote, so I can increase my quote by minimum 1 rupees. So it could be 6,001 rupees or 6,002 rupees or 6,003 rupees. It cannot be, or it can never be 6,000 rupees 50 paisa. If tick size is 1 rupees, then it has to be increased by 1 rupees or multiple of 1 rupees. And similarly decreased by 1 rupees or multiple of 1 rupees. And delivery centers mean all those means this commodity can be delivered. Delivered means the buyer can take the commodity, possession of that commodity, and seller can deposit the commodity in the warehouse. Where? On these delivery center locations. So there are warehouses. Those warehouses are approved by the exchange or NCCL, and in these Indore, Akola, Latur, Kota, Bansora, in these locations, warehouses are approved by exchange entity and NCCL. Through that warehouse or those warehouses only, the seller can give delivery by depositing the produce over here, and buyers can take delivery by taking the commodity out of that warehouse. So it is not like in physical mandi and all those they need to visit. They need to visit, whether it is buyer or seller, they need to visit to the warehouse approved by the exchange. So whatsoever their nearest delivery location is there for a seller, he can visit to deliver or deposit the commodity over there. And there is delivery logic, compulsory delivery. The price limit is 6%. So suppose today price is 100 rupees, last price is 100 rupees. So tomorrow the price cannot increase beyond 106 rupees. So 106 rupees on the higher side and 94 rupees on the lower side. So the limit is fixed for every day. So on any day, it cannot move beyond 6% on the higher side or on the lower side of the previous day. The calculation is done based on the previous day's price. Then there is provision limit fixed. Position limit fixed means no single client can take more than that fixed position limits. So if it is near month means again, if taking this soybean case, the 20th of December, right now in today's case, 20th of December contract, the very first contract is called near month contract. The contract that is going to expire very first, that is called near month contract. So near month contract limit is lower, and then other contracts limits are higher. So we can see that near month limit is 30,000 metric ton, and per month is 1,20,000 metric ton. So no single person can take position more than 30,000 metric ton in near month and 1,20,000 metric ton in far month. Expiry, as we discussed, it is 20th of month, and the volume we can see that how much quantity has been traded. So just to give a comparison that how much quantity is being traded on the exchange over on a year or in a year. So we can see that this is number of metric tons. So in the last row, when I said 25 or 26 million metric ton has been traded last year for the soybean contract. 258 lakh tons of soybean was traded on the exchange in 2020. So these are the few of the global exchanges offering soybean. So NCDEX comes at third number. Now there is contract launch calendar. So what happens? How does this contract or this futures type of contract would benefit farmers? So what happens? The crop or any of the crop is being sown in any month, either Rabi season or Kharif season. Say for it is soybean, then it would be sown in the month of June or July, and it would be harvested in the month of October, November, and so on. So if a farmer is having visibility of the price of November month, what price would be there in the November month by sitting in the month of June or July, then that makes him eligible or able to make use of these kind of prices. So we can see that in the this is soybean's contract launch calendar. So it is the harvesting months of October and November. These October and November contracts are being launched in the month of March and April, whereas sowing time is June and July. So since March and April, these contracts are available. I am a farmer. I am sowing the commodity in the month of June. So in June month, I am able to see the prices that what prices are there on futures market for November contract. And if that price suits me, by comparing last year price, what I have faced last year, by comparing the market prices and all those, by comparing with the my cost of production and profit. So if that price suits me, then what I can take, what I can do, I can create a sell position, because I am a farmer. I need to sell the commodity after harvesting. So rather than selling in the physical market, I can create a sell position in futures market by sitting in the month of June and wait till the crop gets harvested. Once the crop is harvested, then I can take the commodity to the warehouse and deposit over there. And from that warehouse, that would be taken by the position will be taken by the buyer, who is the buyer against me. Now coming to how this is being traded, how anyone can trade in these kind of markets. So first and foremost, one need to open an account with any brokers. So for exchange, these brokers are called members, but in normal language, they are called brokers. So with any broker, one need to open an account by doing all those necessary know your client or know your customer. And then once account is open, then what I need to do? I need to just deposit a margin. So margin is just 12-15%, 10 to 15% of various commodity price of the or value of various commodities. So by paying just 10-15%, I would be able to either buy or sell. Again, there is one difference over here with futures and physical market. So in physical market, seller always receives the money and buyer pays the money. But over here, at the time of taking position, whether I am buyer or I am seller, both need to pay the margin. It is once I would be delivering, if I am seller and I would be delivering the commodity, I am depositing the commodity and the commodity is being handed over to the buyer, then I would be getting all the money. So whatever margin money I have paid, that money plus total value of the commodity at which I have sold. So all those things would be given to me. But before that, I need to pay the margin. And once I have created a position by paying the margin, so every day prices either can go up or go down. Based on the price going up or down, my profit and loss would be calculated. And those calculation of profit and loss is called mark to market. If there is profit, that would come to me. If there is loss, I need to pay to the exchange through broker. Now, if I am in profit, I am a seller or I am a buyer. Suppose I am a buyer. I bought any commodity at 5,000 rupees. Tomorrow the price goes to 5,100 rupees. Now I am earning profit of 100 rupees on a 1 quintal basis. So what I would try to do, I would try to book my profits. For booking the profit, I need to take opposite position. So earlier I had bought, now I need to sell. It's just simple trade. So for that is called, the taking opposite position is called squaring off. So by squaring off, I can exit from the market from my position, and then if I am in profit, that profit would be coming to me. Suppose I don't want to, I have bought, but in this December month contract, but on 20th of December, the contract will get expired. So I don't want to square off right now. I want to keep my position further for next month. That is January month till 20th of January. So what I need to do? I need to roll over. So what is rolling over? Rolling over means exiting from current position and taking again the same position in further months. So I have taken position December month, buy position. So I'll be selling the January my buy position in December month, and again would be buying in January month. So that this type of thing is called rolling over. I am rolling my position from one expiry to other expiry. Why I would be doing this? Because I am having my perception that in futures I have bought. So I have bought only because I think that prices would go up. And again, I am having perception that in future prices can go further up. In future means if I am holding my position for next 1 month, prices can go further up. So I would try to roll over. And suppose I am a seller or I'm buyer also. I don't want to square off and don't want to roll over, then I can take or give delivery. So that delivery would be happening as explained already through warehousing ecosystem, and how that happens we'll discuss in later. Now, as I was discussing that how these kind of market or these kind of instruments are becoming useful or have being useful for various kind of market participants. So whether irrespective of what kind of market participant I am, whether I am farmer, whether I am an importer or exporter or processor, so these kind of instruments are helpful for each and everyone for their price risk mitigation. So over here, I am just taking example of farmer because it is the simplest example. So again, in case, suppose in the month of June, the price of the commodity is say 6,100 rupees. In the month of, when the harvesting comes, suppose that at the time of harvesting, the price, as we discussed, that 70% of the time prices come down. So at the month of harvesting, if prices come down to say for 5,500 rupees. So what happens? As we discussed in last slide, that I have bought at 5,000 rupees in that particular example. I bought at 5,000 rupees and price goes to 5,100 rupees. So 100 rupees is profit to me. Similarly, over here, I sold at higher rate, 6,100 rupees, and towards the expiry, I am seeing the prices have come down to 5,500 rupees. So if I would be delivering the commodity to the exchange through warehouses, then I would be able to realize that 6,100 rupees. So despite the current price is 5,500 rupees, I would realize 6,100 rupees. That was old price at which I have traded earlier. And suppose I don't want to give delivery through the exchange. So what I can do, I can square off. So squaring off is taking opposite position. So I sold earlier. Now I would buy. I would buy at what price? Right now the price is 5,500. So I would buy at 5,500. So what would happen with this trade? So sold at 61, bought at 5,500. So meanwhile, I would be gaining 600 rupees out of this selling and then buying. So this 600 rupees would be realized by me irrespective of my commodity, actual commodity, physical commodity. Now this actual physical commodity I can take this commodity to any mandi, my nearby mandi, and sell over there. So I am assuming that in my nearby mandi, the commodity is being priced at 5,500 rupees only. So 5,500 rupees I would fetch from the mandi, physical mandi, and 600 rupees I have received from the futures market. So net I would be realizing 600 plus 55, again 6,100 rupees. So this is the same price at which I had sold earlier in futures market in sowing months. So this way, what we are observing over here. So irrespective of what prices are there, if prices are coming down or not, I would be able to realize the same price at which I had already taken position initially. So that price is logged for me. That price is fixed for me. So whatever prices would go, wherever prices would go, whether it is 5,000 or 4,000 or 3,000, I would be receiving that 6,100 rupees. But there is one drawback. If prices go up, then also we would be receiving this 6,100 rupees. Again, say the price goes to 7,000 rupees. So what would happen? I sold at 6,100 rupees and price went up to 7,000 rupees. So in that case, I would be losing 900 rupees. So if I am delivering, then I would be receiving only 6,100 rupees. If I am not delivering, then what would happen? I would be selling the commodity in physical mandi, and in physical mandi I would be fetching 7,000 rupees, but 900 rupees I have already paid to the exchange as mark to market. So my net realization would be 7,000 rupees minus 900 that has already been paid to the exchange. That is 6,100 rupees. Again, the same price at which I had sold earlier. So irrespective of prices going up or down, I would be realizing that same price at which I had hedged earlier at initial stage. So this way, this system works for any of the market participant to lock in their price to use that particular price so that their future profitability is secured. So now there is one more instrument that is called option. So what happens in this? In case of option, there is no need of paying mark to market. Then what do we need to pay? In this case, what do we pay? We pay another, we definitely pay some amount, but that amount is called premium. So why do we pay premium? What is premium? So just like we can compare it with our car insurance or vehicle insurance. So what happens if I have insured my car for this year, 1 year, by paying 10,000 rupees or 5,000 rupees whatsoever premium? So for next 1 year, whatever would happen, if suppose I met with an accident and there is some damage to my car, so the insurance company would pay for that damage. So for that, I have paid that premium, that 10,000 rupees, I have paid that premium. But if there is no accident for whole year, then that premium is lapsed. So the same thing can be understood in this example. So what happens over here, what I am buying as insurance, I am buying price insurance. So that price insurance, buying price insurance says that I am securing this price. If prices are going down, this again, I am taking the example of selling the commodity. So there are two kind of options that is called call option or put option. So I am not going much in detail of that. I am taking a single case of put option that is equivalent to selling futures. That is normal selling. So buying put option. So don't go by the word buy. Buy, put, both combined together is equivalent to sell. Buy put means sell. So buy put option is equivalent to selling. Now, by selling this by buying this put option, I am buying the right to sell. So say for this, there is a price of 6,300 rupees, and for that there is a premium is being charged at 300 rupees. So 300 rupees is premium that has to be paid to buy the insurance of 6,300 rupees price. Insurance of 60 insurance that means that securing that 6,300 rupees price for me. If price goes to 5,000 rupees now during the harvesting month, so I have already bought that price insurance by paying 300 rupees. So I can deliver my commodity to the exchange and realize that 6,300 rupees. So exchange would I would be fetching this 6,300 rupees, and I had paid premium of 300 rupees. So my net realization would be 6,300 rupees minus 300, that is 6,000 rupees. But if price goes to 7,000 rupees, so what would happen? I am no more obliged to pay any mark to market over here. So what is happening over here? I just need to open my position as such. That would be expired as such. The position would be lapsed as such. Now I would be visiting my any physical mandi, nearby physical mandi, and selling over there at 7,000 rupees. So what would be my relation over here? 7,000 rupees from physical mandi minus 300 rupees that I have already paid as a premium. So that would be 6,700 rupees. So through option, I would be able to fetch or get the goods of both the worlds, whether it is prices are going upside or going downside. Now, if I want to give delivery, so what would happen? I need to visit to the nearby warehouse and deposit the commodity over here. So for that, first and foremost, I need to book the warehousing space in the warehouse nearby my location. And if space is available, then I would be given a date and time that on that given date and time, I can take my commodity to the warehouse. In that warehouse, the first and foremost, the commodity would be my truck would be weighed on a overbridge and weighbridge, and then these commodities, suppose it is soybean, and 10 metric tons, suppose 10 metric ton of soybean I have brought to the warehouse. So one bag, that this commodity would be filled in gunny bags. So one gunny bag can contain anywhere in between 50 and 50 to 80 kg. So assuming that 50 kg gunny bags are there, so there would be 200 gunny bags. So 200 gunny bags or 10 metric ton would be offloaded in the warehouse. Sample would be drawn from each and every 200 gunny bag. So those samples, a small sample would be drawn from each and every gunny bag. Then those samples would be mixed together and then divided into 4 equal parts. So those 4 equal parts, one part would be given to me because I am the owner of the commodity, I am the depositor. One part would be kept by the exchange, the warehouse for his reference. 2 parts would be sent to the laboratory in which the quality would be tested. So what quality would be tested? All those parameters that is being prescribed by the exchange for deposit. So oil percent, moisture percent, foreign matter, all those things would be tested. And if that test results confirm that yes, these are all those parameters are meeting exchange prescribed norms, then this commodity would be accepted for deposit, and then that can be delivered on the exchange. And if it is not confirming, then the depositor means I need to take back that commodity from that warehouse by paying the rent for those 6, 7, 8 days. Now, to encourage FPOs, farmers participate and use this derivative market for their price risk mitigation, exchanges with the help of SEBI do provide various kind of incentives. So what are those kind of incentives? Because in exchange, to deliver in the exchange, the commodity should possess certain quality. Those quality norms should be met. So for that, often there is requirement of cleaning and drying and sorting and assaying. So all those charges would be reimbursed to the extent of 100%. Whatever cost I would bear if I am an FPO, whatever cost I am bearing for this cleaning, sorting, drying, and all those, the 100% of that is refunded, reimbursed. The gunny bags, because each and every commodity needs to be filled in gunny bags, so 100% cost of gunny bags would be reimbursed. The 50% of transportation charge from my field to the warehouse where it is being deposited would be reimbursed. Then 50% of warehousing rent would be reimbursed to the FPO. The 50% of mandi tax are being reimbursed to the FPO, and likewise. Now we can see that NCDEX started engaging from farmers or FPOs since 2016, and since then around 400 FPOs are there associated with the exchange. Out of those, around 391, 94 or 400 FPOs, around 150 FPOs have already traded on the exchange. So we can see that there are different 17, 18 commodities that are being traded. That those FPOs have traded. But if we see the commodity-wise segment, then soybean and maize are the major commodities that those FPOs have traded. So soybean caters for around 45% and maize around 22% of total commodities traded on exchange by these FPOs. And out of these around 400 or 394 or 400 FPOs, the members, they are having around 9 lakh farmer members. Geographical spread we see, though we can see that the largest number of FPOs comes from Maharashtra, then Gujarat, Rajasthan, and Madhya Pradesh. And these are the actual case studies of various FPOs who have used these derivative markets for their price risk management. So last year, exchange started a pilot project for put option. So around 41 FPO participated, and 300 rupees, up to 300 rupees of premium was borne by the exchange. So we can see that around 41 FPOs participated, and they traded for around 3,000 metric ton of chana and mustard seed. So they all were able to lock in their price because they bought put option. So they all were able to lock in their price. Had the prices come down lower, they would have realized the locked in price. And this is the actual realization by the FPOs. Again, these are the few of the case studies in which by taking position in futures market, they were able to realize, or they were better off by around 5-6% to 20-25%, depending upon the commodities and FPOs and different scenarios. So this way, this derivative market is helpful for each and every kind of market participant. Through each and everyone can use. And what happens is still there is lack of awareness about these kind of markets among market participants. And also there is lack of confidence because mainly farmers and all those in remote location, and not only farmers, even general public in remote location, they feel that this is a kind of satta trade or dabba trade. So there is still great need to increase the awareness, and wherein the NICR and with the help of other ecosystem and regulators, we are trying to increase the awareness about the ecosystem and the utility and benefits that is being offered by these exchanges and derivative market to the ecosystem. So with this, I end my presentation, and